Good afternoon and good morning. I'm Mark Wasilico, the Vice President of Marketing for Decisive. I'd like to thank you all for attending today's webinar on driving the transition to paperless service management. Indication of interest is seen in the fact that we have more than 150 people have registered. Hopefully we'll be able to provide you the information that you're looking for. Our objective today is twofold. First, to provide you with practical insights on transitioning to a paperless service process. And second, to let you hear from two companies that have already undertaken that journey and to have them share their direct experience and the benefits that they've realized in streamlining service processing. We've assembled a great group of panelists with a lot of experience. Just to give you their background, Travis Brown. Travis is Director of Service Operations with the Vision Truck Group. Has 28 years in the industry in all roles from technician to training instructor to supervisor to manager and director. He's been a Decisive user since 2009 and was one of the first pilots for Assist with Mack and Volvo. Matt Allen has been in the service business as a mechanic and technician for over 35 years. He started his tenure with Inland 27 years ago. And he's worked and managed both service departments and body shops. He defines his charter as making the service experience for customers and employees an efficient and enjoyable experience. Sara Howes is our Senior Director of Customer Experience and Applications at Decisive. She's been with Decisive since 2017. Sara oversees everything to do with customer and user experience, including research and design. She's got responsibility for the Decisive Key Design System, for content strategy, innovation, and product management. Andy Turnbull is our Vice President of Customer Solutions. Many of you probably know Andy. He spent over 2 decades at the crossroads of transportation and technology, and that he has 16 years of experience with the Volvo Group and another 5 years of good experience with Decisive. And Robert Nordstrom. Robert's our Director of Process and Onboarding at Decisive. Robert's responsible for process improvements and implementation for onboarding our customers. He's a 16-year veteran of the service event process at Decisive, one of the first Decisive employees, and was previously a service director and manager for heavy trucks. We're targeting, in terms of the agenda, we're targeting about 30 to 40 minutes today and trying to allow for 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A. We'll start by discussing the analog challenges, problems created in a paper-based process. We'll move to Sara hosting a discussion, first introducing what is paperless, and then a panel discussion with Vision and Inland, with Matt and with Travis. And then we'll extend that panel discussion to include our own field people, Andy and Robert. That'll be followed by the Q&A, and we'll try to stay on schedule. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Andy. Mr. Turnbull, I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you for the introductions, Mark, and happy Wednesday, everyone. My name is Andy Turnbull, and I'm really excited to have the group of people that we have presenting today, and also all of you on the phone that are willing to attend. So what we're going to be sharing today is our insights over the thousands of service locations we've had the pleasure of working with, not just in the North American region, but actually around the world. The insight I'm speaking of is the cost of chaos that analog processes generate, and more specifically, the lost opportunity to run as efficient as possible. This is visible in some things such as operating printers, but when you go beneath the iceberg, the tip of it, you're looking at the largest opportunities, and those largest opportunities are the searching for details in paperwork that's perhaps long filed away, the unsearchable information and lack of continuous improvement that's derived from that. And as we've all come to know, the challenges that COVID-19 has caused our country and our industry. When you look at areas where going digital can improve, I think that's the thing that we're going to be focusing on today with the panelists. So when we're looking at the areas of improvement, we're looking at connectivity, communication, control, and consistency. And what we're looking at there is ultimately connecting all the stakeholders around a repair event, having clear communication around that event, bringing increased control over the chaos, which ultimately will lead to a consistent result. What we'll do now is turn it over to Sara, who will continue the presentation.
So I think that's a good explanation of the types of issues that an analog service process actually represents in a modern shop environment. And the next logical question that I assume people have is really, how do we change that? You know, what does a digitized service process even look like? in practice. And the good news is that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. As an overview, just to start us off, what we're really talking about is leveraging the decisive service relationship, or SRM, platform to essentially eliminate physical record keeping for service. And in that scenario, the entire service event from start to finish is conducted without person-to-person contact, without paper, entirely on devices like a laptop or a tablet or even a smartphone. And we'll hear examples from our panelists today about how that works for people out in the real world. But to kind of give us an imagination of what that actually looks like in practice, imagine this scenario from start to finish, left to right on this screen. The asset arrives at your shop. Maybe it even breaks a geofence, and then that kind of alerts the service advisor through the platform to go out and handle check-in, right? The service advisor goes out, they check in the asset by scanning a QR code from their mobile phone or their tablet, and that pulls up the Decisive SRM application and pulls up the asset record within that application. They can then use that mobile device to fill out a walk-around inspection. They can take pictures with that same device, add them immediately to the case instead of, walking around with a clipboard, writing things on a piece of paper, taking pictures on their phone, and then having to email it back to themselves so that they can attach it to a system somewhere. They don't have to do any of that, right? That's all just built into the platform. They can also do things like confirm contact information for that asset, for that driver. And then that record is also now part of the platform and the application. So I think even just with that check-in step, you can already kind of start to imagine the cost savings and the work savings that you get from digitizing your process. You don't have to run around trying to keep track of that clipboard. You don't have to keep track of the paper. You don't have to, scribble someone's contact information on their phone number and hope you got that email address right. It's all just typed in immediately to that asset record and to that case record. And, you cut down on person-to-person contact, and it even just starts that case process off with this shareable record that you can reference later. At this point, you have all the information in this process that you need to create that new case in the Decisive SRM platform. Great. You can use plug-in diagnostic tools to get additional readings from the asset. Those just, get loaded to the case automatically as well. But the big thing is now you can really start workflowing or assigning that case out to members of the shop to track work done on the asset, just like you normally would, except now you can see in the platform when it's been workflowed or assigned to the foreman or the technician or the parts department or back to the technician, and get a sense for the status of that case at any given point in time with just a few clicks of the button. So all of this is just capturing with timestamps and even attribution, so you know who did what and when, the steps that you're normally taking in conducting service. So even your estimate generation and the operations are all on the case record. They're all digital. Everybody can see them all at once. And you're just doing it digitally now instead of on paper or some other mechanism. So you have this great record of everything that happened and when and who did it. And it's all in one place too. I think that's another important point. One application, one place to go look and figure out what's going on. And you can use that to get some really great insights from the platform about how things are going for your shop too. How long does an asset stay in a particular status on average? Is that what you want to see or is it not, right? So eventually a final asset estimate is sent to the customer with all the invoice details, all the operations, part prices, labor hours, all via the application. They can then send back their approval, or they can decline or defer things. Ultimately, that case then is sent digitally for warranty and payment processing. Again, all digital, few clicks of the button. And now all that asset history and all the service details are available in the platform for easy recall, easy auditing and reference. Your PM schedules remain updated when you complete that work. And that's it. It's your typical asset service event, just captured electronically. So with everything from check-in to asset gone entirely digitized, all that really remains is the wrench turning, right? You just need the Decisive SRM platform on your devices and a Wi-Fi connection in the shop, and the platform kind of takes care of the rest. So with that said, I'm going to turn things over to our guests, Travis Brown from Vision Truck Group in Ontario, and Matt Allen from Inland Kenworth. And Travis, can you start us off?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to talk about the benefits of Assist. Vision Truck Group transitioned to Assist in early 2019, the paperless platform. Excellent. Connectivity. All service and warranty employees are engaged on Assist, spanning the company's supplied devices, desktops, laptops, tablets, and smartphones. That's right from the technician through the warranty administrator, service advisor, service manager, sales department, parts department, everyone in the dealership involved in the service event. Every employee not only understands their role and responsibilities, but also the responsibilities of the team, how we're all interconnected and collaborating. Accountability in real time as events are unfolding and processing instant notifications, timestamping, updates, reminders, tracking, and dashboards. Anywhere at any time, our team is connected in support of each other. Communication, all employees understand that all communications are in the case, documented and timestamped for review, action, advice, direction, support, and closure. Customer, service advisor, uptime supervisor, advanced supervisor, technician, warranty admin, parts agents, managers, accounting, corporate, and sales. We are all engaged in constant real-time communication throughout the repair process in the case. If it is not in the case, it didn't happen. And that is what we say at Vision and have since we started using the platform in 2009. Control. Each department or individual always maintains control through workflow. Employees are engaged and accountable for the direction of the event case while they're in their control assigned. They do their duty, they hand off the next phase, time-stamped and tracked. ETRs, follow-up time, quick actions, dashboards, and watch lists aid in control. And finally, consistency. Assist ensures consistency through systematic functionality, access to information, tools, and triggers, allowing our team to precisely complete their tasks, often building muscle memory type habits throughout their role. Each user's customizable dashboard allows them to filter and focus on data they need to streamline the action they need to take. All actions, cases, and results are the same across all customers, all operations, and all locations. Paperless during COVID-19. Again, as we transitioned in early 2019, we had much of this in place. When the pandemic hit, our employees were able to maintain distance and still complete their duties without too much change. There was no need for handoff of paper, it was gone. No need for face-to-face communications, everyone's tied into Assist. No need to move around the facility, no need for the customer to even enter the building. In many cases, we do pick up and delivery of their vehicles. We pick them up, we drop them off, we handle the case from start to finish electronically with the customer as well as within the building. Our Assist usage and commitment only intensified during the pandemic. We found even more ways to take advantage of the platform. Benefits. Ease of access to the sheer volume of information stored in the case, as Sarah mentioned earlier. Every communication, every conversation, photos, videos, statuses, changes, actions, and progress, all time-stamped. Case can be dissected, investigated, and participated from anywhere in real time.
All right, Matt?
Hello, everyone. So we started off on our journey in Decisive about 6 years ago. We saw a tremendous benefit in the program to be able to better serve our customers. We realized that our Inland we had our own system that we were using, but it wasn't interactive. It was all 100% manually inputted. And it lacked the ability to help us. It was just another program, and it really was just like one of those things that we have it, some used it, some didn't use it, but we were always a little bit off step with everything that was happening live. So making the decision to go with Decisive gave us the ability to bring some of those things in our service management, added life to it. Being able to see when an update needed to be done, or what was the status of the repair, or who had care, custody, and control. So we started off a little bit, we stepped a little bit slowly. We definitely crawled before we walked or ran. Decisive now using Vision, coupled with the Decisive platform. I think we have Vision open more than we have actual PACCAR solutions open. We are able to now better establish care, custody, and control of each individual event that's happening. So after we finally hit the ground and we kind of stabilized and everything was going very well, and about 2 years ago, Inland went through has been going through a lot of change. One of those things that we have is anybody has ever gone through a business system change where your whole world gets turned upside down. It's kind of a uneasy feeling, but we knew this one thing, that when we changed over our business system to CDK from DSI, that PACCAR Solutions was ultimately going to be what was the thing that was going to hold us all together, that was going to have some kind of sense of familiarity. If anybody's ever managed through change, you know that could be quite hair-raising. So during all this change, one of the things that Inland did was we sat down with all of our service people and we wrote a standard operating procedure that we titled it the Inland Way. So our SOP is designed to create a consistent customer experience across all of our locations, give any of our employees the ability to immediately assist our customers in real time, and manage repair events across our complete enterprise. Decisive Vision coupled with PACCAR Solutions is an excellent audit tool. When you're going through a process and you can't find out where your gaps are in your process and trying to figure out why something is not being done or if something doesn't work, if you don't have an excellent audit tool, you can't audit your process and identify gaps, and it makes it almost virtually impossible to improve your process. Come a long way since that. PACCAR Solutions is 100% our customer-facing platform. All of our communication, notes, requests for approval, all parts personnel in the dealerships and all service personnel, it married them together, and I think we realized just how dependent we are upon each other for our mutual success to be able to take care of our customers. So we're now seeing an increased benefit of transitioning to paperless, and I'll bounce a little bit off of Travis. The whole pandemic thing kind of, I think it snuck up on us, and then all of a sudden one day it was a mad dash to get everybody out of the dealership that could working remotely. The thing that made it a whole lot less intimidating was the workflow and notes and everybody being able to see what's going on with the case without actually sitting in the same room with each other. It's not an easy task, but it was easy that everyone, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. So we have several employees that are working remotely because of the virus, and see a tremendous opportunity on this journey that we're taking to be able to transition to paperless. There's really no need, if you're putting everything in your notes, if your technicians are writing their stories, all the photos, any kind of documentation that you need for a repair event is all stored in Decisive, and it's there forever. I don't have to go upstairs into an archive of hundreds of thousands of boxes of paper to find a single RO. All I need to know is what that asset number is, who the customer is, what a unit number is, a VIN number, and we can find every one of those repair events that happen completely and have it at our fingerprints digitally. So I guess that's where we're at. We're on that road, heading that way, and would really like to get there.
That's awesome. Thank you both. So it was nice to hear your responses to those questions that we had posed to you. We have a few more questions from the chat to kind of open up for you guys as well. So first and foremost from the audience, can you describe what benefits have surprised you about transitioning to paperless?
As far as surprises go, there weren't a whole lot as far as, I mean, there's an expectation when you go digitally, things are going to be different. Surprise-wise, we had worked on the platform with Assist for such a long period of time, 2009. We were chomping at the bit to get all of our customers and all of our team, including right down to our technicians, on board. So I think there was more anticipation of what we could do and what we could achieve rather than surprise. One of the things that did come up that we didn't expect was when we brought our technicians onto the platform and everybody had their own iPads, we found that we were no longer engaged with them just on a single shift. They were engaged without even asking them to be 24/7. So you would see technicians bringing other technicians into repair events when they were even off duty. They would say, hey, I've got a truck in the shop and I've done this diagnostic and I want a second opinion on this. And you would get this kind of social media conversation going between a couple techs invited in, and they would come to an agreement on which way to proceed, and they would support each other or give feedback. And we didn't anticipate that. That wasn't asked or requested. They just all started talking to each other through these cases and supporting each other without having to be side by side or even on shift at the time. So that was one of the things we didn't anticipate.
Yeah, I remember you told us that story when we visited, and you said the technicians were really engaged that way. I think that's awesome. Matt, have you seen anything that you didn't expect?
I think that the biggest thing is that I didn't expect was most of our users and the communication between the customer and getting that information in a timely manner to our foreman out on the shop floor to be able to keep the repair event live. Mm-hmm. I saw less events that were, we forgot something or we didn't know where the job was as it was going through the shop. I think one of my biggest surprises is that we still feel the need to have a piece of paper in front of us. Our technicians are not the best at typing. It's easier for them to just jot down a note on a piece of paper. But now we're moving rapidly toward, if it's not in the case, it didn't happen. Verbal conversations don't really mean anything, but when it's written and retained, I think that was the biggest surprise to me, was that the amount of information that everybody was putting onto the case to make sure that we were all working together to keep it live.
Yeah, that's great. So in that same kind of vein, let me see, beyond the elimination of paper, this is a question from the audience, is there additional value that you guys have seen in retrieving and connecting data? Like, for example, they cite here speed of diagnostics or repair or things like that.
Well, to me, the speed of diagnosis is being able to triage and determine what direction that repair event is going to go at the time that case is open and that repair order is started. That we have technicians assigned to triage, that they'll triage every truck that comes through the door, and we'll know whether that's going to be a quick repair or whether it's going to be a more advanced repair, or if it needs more required, advanced diagnostics that need to be done. So we don't have trucks that are sitting in line that may have only a 2-hour repair on it, that's sitting in line, taking them in as they come for another day and a half for a 3-hour repair. Yeah. So I think being able to speed up that repair process as to where it's going in your shop, those are all the things that came out of our, I guess you could say, reorganizing our efforts. We were managing like it was 1990 and it's now 2019, 2020, and time is everything, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about a customer that has a just-in-time load. He doesn't want to hear 3 days of downtime for a knock sensor. We got to be able to get those in and out and get them done quicker. And I think that's what increases the pace of your shop.
That's great. Travis, what about you? Anything to add?
Yeah, I brought this up before. One that continues to stick in my mind. We try to bring the customers into the process as transparent as possible, mm-hmm. Inviting them in and making as many communications within the case public. Going back a couple of years, we had a situation where there was going to be a part back ordered for 3 days for a unit that was in our shop. Customer happened to be Penske, and you're fully aware they have their own shops and depots throughout the continent. They immediately saw in our case that we had updated that there was a back order that was going to need to come from across the border, and it was going to be an ETA of 3 days. We weren't showing it in the My Global system anywhere. An alert Penske employee, seeing that update in the case, quickly jumped on it and realized he has that part on his shelf in their own depot just a few kilometers away from us. And his reply back into the case is, I have the part, it's in a pickup truck, it's on its way to you in less than 10 minutes. So that is where the customer was able to jump in with us. And we all worked together to get that truck out same day rather than having to wait through the regular parts channels. So it was incredible to see that.
Andy?
Yeah, there's a couple in here that kind of more thematic questions here, more around techs and around, you know, how do we break people from using paper? Matt, I know you're a big proponent of how to do that. Would you want to share that with the team?
Well, I think the whole thing is making sure that everybody is bought into the process before we actually turn the process. I think there's great benefit in being able to have everybody understand the whys of why we're heading the direction we're going, what everybody's role and responsibility is in making this happen. I think as we started, our greatest fear was, I believe, probably accountability, because you always have some people that want to hang back in the shadows and watch things happen. But now knowing that I have the ability to be able to focus on only what is assigned to me and what I'm responsible for, I don't see a huge need to have paper, because I think once we get to the point where we're talking about turning printers off and throwing away paper, I think it will be a whole lot easier to adapt to that if we have some really good conversations and involvement from everybody. I really think that the possibilities of going paperless, I believe that we could do that. We do have some old school folks that are still holding on to paper. But when the paper is not available, we're always going to have a reliable and trustworthy platform to go back to. So once you prove to yourself that you really don't need the paper, and there's several people that are really grabbing a hold of it, it shouldn't be too hard of a task to get that rolled out and roll it across everywhere.
Fantastic. Thank you. Travis, I wonder if we can pick your brain on this one. There's a couple of questions in here that are specific to, you know, technicians typing their notes, writing their story. And in general, there's one in here specific to, you know, what if it needs to be kind of read before it's out there and published? What are some of the ways that you and maybe even Matt handle that, you know, with the team, and just kind of visibility to information and how techs take notes?
Within the Assist platform, we generally encourage our techs not to make notes public. Much of what they need to do remains within the dealership walls. They have their sections for 3Cs where they put their complaint cause correction in and any relevant steps to complete the repair. And then there's the notes in the workflow section, which allows them to order their parts, communicate with warranty, double check items with service. Typically, if they had a question that needed to go to the customer, they would workflow that up to the foreman or to the service counter, and then the customer would be brought into that loop. However, we have, I would say, advanced level technicians that we consider capable of customer communications, and we have observed where they've reached directly out to customers to get a better description of the repair, conversation with the driver, share a video, and then the customer is quite comfortable communicating with them as well. And in most cases, assigns them the case by name so that he can check on his repair. So we've got that happening at all different levels, and through good communication and support, we're able to coordinate that with our team.
So let me see, we had one more question I think we can squeeze in here. It comes from Kip Harris. Can the system capture verbal notes versus technicians typing their notes? Can any of you kind of weigh in on your experiences with that?
We looked at and tested some different software to be able to taking from a verbal to text. I haven't seen any that are tremendously reliable. If you've ever tried to use that on your phone when you're talking into a text message and then you read the text message, there's probably something out there I've never come across that we haven't done it. We encourage, we have some novelists. We mostly encourage them to just give us the highlights. They write all their text stories, go into the additional notes at the case level. or at the operation level. And I saw one in there also about ordering parts. Our techs order their parts through the additional notes or through workflow to our back parts counter, and then it workflows back to them, and the process just keeps going. That's how they order their parts, through workflow.
You made a comment earlier about technicians not being able to type for some employees. I find it exactly the opposite. In today's climate, I mean, everybody has a smartphone, or 99%. And I find they're quicker typing with their thumbs than they are sometimes writing. And it's easier to interpret, you know, what would chicken scratch on a work order versus clear typed notes in the case, time stamped in order. So that I found was not an issue whatsoever. I think it was only an improvement.
I think that's a good idea, a good point too. And I believe if you use our mobile application, you can also use the native mobile device recording voice to text functionality in your keyboard on the device as well. So there's some options, I think, on there. And I think to Travis's point, it's a great idea to have that captured digitally. One more question, and then we're going to move on to our next phase of the presentation. Are you, either of you, willing or able to share your top 3 vision filters that help you stay on top of your WIP?
We have a advisor's view that has all of the advisors and what cases are assigned to them. We have views for each one of our foremans and the technicians that are assigned to them, so that we know every job that is assigned to every technician and who has care, custody, and control of that repair event. And I think the other one is probably departments. We use departments in a little bit of a different way as he circulates the floor and gets information from the technician to update the customer.
That's great. Travis?
We're not a strong user of the Vision platform as far as Assist goes. The dashboards that our team have set up, I would say the most popular views that we would have would be department code, either set to uptime or advanced, letting the team know that they have vehicles versus advanced. There's the asset completed queue for the service advisors that unit is now complete, can be invoiced, and the customer communicated with to come and put the vehicle back on the road. And then the bay overlay, where we've got department codes set to bay, so that the technicians layout, the shop foreman can see the actual layout of the cases as they appear in the service bays, so that he can make sure that every bay is being utilized and where the vehicles are for parts delivery, etc.
Oh, that's great. All right, if we proceed to the next screen real quick. We had asked the panelists right before we started the call, actually, to kind of pre-answer some questions that we thought the audience might find interesting. So we've outlined some of their answers here. So specifically, we asked, what were the perceived drawbacks of transitioning to paperless for your organization? Who are the most opposed parties? And how did you address their concerns? So I think, Travis, you touched a little bit on this, but I don't know if there's anything else that you might want to add from this particular perspective.
Initially, it was the supervisors and the service advisors, again, used to working with that pile of paper or that queue of work orders lined up so that they didn't lose visibility of it. Work order disappears off their desk. It disappears from existence. So manipulating and setting up the decisive dashboards was critical for them, making sure that they had the proper technicians on shift checked off, the proper bays in play checked off, uptime versus advanced queues, statuses for the different repairs set to parts on order or waiting for authorization. And then once they can plug all those filters in, they have a very clear view of exactly what vehicles are in play and what vehicles are not. And by scrolling through different dashboard views, all of those jobs are classified, and they soon realized that there was no way to lose. If that work order got misplaced in a drawer, it didn't matter anymore because everything was on that dashboard. That case was there until it was closed. So case watching, follow-up times, ETRs, and status changes further aided them so that not only do they have to remember that they have that one in queue, now they can set these reminders for themselves that if they do lose track of time or they do get focused on something else, they're going to get a flag that pops up letting them know that, an ETR has been passed or a status change has occurred and they need to know about it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Matt, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Well, I would have to agree 100%. The being able to, we started talking about keep the repair event live, and I don't think everybody understood exactly what that means. But when you have a tool that helps me stay organized instead of the tremendous busyness that happens in every service department that I've ever visited or been involved with, is that there are a million things coming at you at the same time. And if you have a way of staying focused on what you're responsible for, and you have a firm grasp of the care, custody, control of that repair event, it makes it a whole lot easier to manage that event. But it also gives us the ability to go back and look at it and ask, where did we fail? What part of the process didn't we follow?
Mhm.
And be able to celebrate those ones that are big wins.
And I think that leads us into the next slide, actually, progress and monitoring. So how do you continue to monitor your progress to paperless and any quantifiable benefits that you get out of it? And you kind of just touched on that, Matt. I don't know if you have any other thoughts on that particular topic.
Well, I think the more we use the platform, and the hardest thing is being able to hold yourself back with too much change all at the same time, because you see the infinite possibilities, and almost every one of those possibilities are good, but not every one of them create the greatest amount of efficiency.
Mm.
And everything is about time, and time is efficiency. And if I can react to something quickly in real time instead of it becoming a problem, and you could see the catch points and the valleys and the potholes that are coming up ahead of you, you could stay ahead of it. I mean, the progress in monitoring, we see tremendous ability to be able to audit our process, stay on our process. And then instead of coaching, mentoring, and counseling the whole group, we could help those people that are struggling. The last thing we want to do is lose somebody because they're frustrated.
Yeah.
We want to help them get past that frustration and help them be successful. If they're successful, we'll be successful.
That's great. And Travis, you had written out some great answers here as well. Anything to add?
No, that's generally a good overview. The only addition would be that by nature, I think we drag our feet together from time to time. And when we did begin our pilot in 2019, it was week after week and then month after month that the team said, yeah, we're going to do it someday. And they're working in both systems, but never making that leap. And it wasn't until we just said, okay, we're unplugging the printers today. And we forced it, that everybody made the transition. And as we rolled it out to the remaining dealerships, it was very clear. Set a date, 2 weeks from now, the printers are unplugged. That's all there is to it. And there won't be any more paper. Once the team understands that, they're all committed. They're all working together. They know that D-Day deadline is coming.
Excellent. So hop to the next one then. So what advice would you both give to someone who's contemplating taking this leap to digitization? Matt, I'm sure you've got some immediate thoughts on that.
I would probably say before you make the leap, make sure that you have buy-in. Make sure that the whole team understands the why we are going this direction, not just to save money on paper, but to make us more efficient and make us better for our customers. I would say make sure you have buy-in and explain it, understand it, and be able to explain it, and not just explain it, but to be able to show it.
That's great. And so on this next slide here, that critical first step, right? Travis, you kind of touched on this just a second ago, put a date on it. What else would you recommend as someone's critical first step in this transition? Travis, do you want to start us off?
Single most important step, and again, we were well ingrained with this early on, being a pilot from 2009 on SIST. Back in the day when we had to work off 2 different systems and there was no integration, no exporting, but the team needs to trust and assist. They need to heavily use assist everybody's got their role and their actions that need to be taken in assist, and we work together as a team. Encourage everybody to try different things in assist. There's so many different there's so much different functionality within the platform. We're discovering things on a weekly basis where, oh, okay, you know, this is now usable and we can apply it and it can be useful to us in this area. So we have to continue to push the team to experiment, to explore, try different processes and procedures. And then, you know, if they fail, then take a couple steps back, rewrite them with the team, so they understand that, you know, we're not going to do it this way, we'll do it that way, but provide that leadership so that they're all very clear on what their responsibilities are and what, you know, toggling this button does and what toggling that button does and how we're going to use that, how we're each going to interact and read that, what responsibilities lie with the warranty department, the service department, the technician, the parts department, where do they get involved in that process, again, through an SOP. So as you know, encourage everybody to trust and assist, use assist. Again, if it's not an assist, it didn't happen. So if you're not on the platform, you're going to become irrelevant rather quickly.
Awesome. I really appreciate that both. Thank you both. So with that last point, I think the question next is, how do you drive that digital transition? What concrete steps can people take to get there? So I'm going to talk to Robert and Andy in this particular section of the webinar here. What do you both think is that critical first step?
Well, I think there's a couple, and they were both touched on by Matt Allen and Travis Brown. You know, when we're looking at any engagement at a service process, you're creating change management. So you have to, as Matt and both Travis said, you have to get the buy-in. You have to look at what the current location is currently doing. So when you travel on site, you know, the good thing about our team, we've had a ton of industry experience and technology experience. So we're coming in and we're talking to them because we know the industry. You know, we actually came from it, and a lot of our team and solutions engineers actually came out of district service roles. So, you know, talking shop is something they've done almost their entire career. And a lot of people on our team have even turned wrenches. So that has a lot of buy-in to actually go on site with the customer and look at the current mode of operation, understand what some of the pain points they're having, and then help them ultimately guide to that new future mode of operation. And it's not a day to night thing. Both Matt and Travis have talked to that, and they would definitely talk more about it, is that, you know, it's a 90-day minimal kind of engagement where we're holding hands with the team members there at the service location. And, you know, Robert's been doing this with all of our partners for 16 years. I'd love to turn it over to him. And Robert, you know, give us some of your insights you've had.
Yeah, following on that exact thread, Andy, and Travis, you said it, and Matt, you did too, continuous improvement. And then Travis, you alluded to the fact that you have to keep exploring because we keep adding new things or you keep finding new things. So right along with that continuous improvement is continuous education. You have to be willing to keep going back and asking the question. Turn around and ask us at Decisive. We have people on staff that know the platform backwards and forwards, as I like to say, upside down, and I can do it blindfolded. So yeah, absolutely. The fact that you're continuing to poke and push that envelope is perfect.
Yeah, I believe it when you say you can do it upside down and blindfolded. I think I've seen it happen. Talk to me a little bit about how you guys foresee people using devices like laptops or tablets or phones. Is there a recommended way to kind of assign those out? Does each person need their own? Are there specific devices that are compatible with our application or not? Let's talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, so depending on what you're going to do, obviously, you know, it's all web-based, so you just need a supported browser. You need Chrome. We have specs on that we can give you. The only real caveat about devices is that if you're going to scan QR codes, you do need a rear-facing autofocus camera. So that's really, really important. So whatever device, if you're going to actually scan QR codes, you need a rear-facing autofocus camera, which really tends to only come up on tablets these days where you have a fixed focus length. As far as whether everybody should have their own device, I certainly feel like everybody should have their own device simply from a login perspective. If somebody forgets to log out, then they're putting information in as the wrong person. But we do have customers that have stations set up for the technicians to go and sit at and log in, and they've set up some refresh scripts to make it log them out, things like that. So obviously the best solution, especially in this age of bring your own device, you can probably leverage that to some extent, even in your work environment.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we did have a couple questions here that I think kind of go to this transition phase. How do you recommend people use the platform to flag change of hands and status updates in the platform?
So the change of hands, obviously, anytime you workflow it, there is note in the platform, so you see that transition from one person to the next. In many cases, there should be a status change. So if I'm a service advisor and I workflow it to the shop foreman, I'm sure Matt and Travis have a process in place that there's a status that's set as well. So you would set it to diagnosing, you would set it to waiting. It kind of depends on how you want to script your process flow. And we can certainly help you with that, but most everyone has a unique thought on how their shop should work. I always like to say, we're different. That's what everybody always says. And when you really get down to the surface of peel back all the onion layers, you find out that the core process is still the same.
Oh, that's great. So any other thoughts from either Andy or Robert here about how people can really drive this transition at their shops?
I think, a critical component, and thank you to Matt and also Travis on here, is the champion that is wanting to create change. Someone that raises their hand and said, we're going to take this in a different direction. It could be an individual, could be a group. And that is an absolute huge thing that's normally overlooked. It's normally like, okay, if you're not bought in, and if someone doesn't wake up in the morning and think this is what needs to happen, then guess what? It won't. And I think beyond that, the flexibility of any type of change needs to be there. And you need to understand it's just not going to be an overnight thing, but know that there are people out there that have done this before. And I think that's really what's fantastic about this webinar is, here's two great examples of transitioning from paper in an industry that we all have come from and we know is not the fastest moving. So I'd really like to thank both of them again for their expertise, their leadership, and I think it's been a really great Q&A as well.
Yeah, now with that, we did want to leave a few minutes here at the end for a bit more audience Q&A. So we do have a few questions here coming in the panel. Let's see. I think we covered a few of them here. What do you do when you have customers who refuse to use computers and or emails? They prefer paper and face-to-face, and they require physical signatures.
It's been quite some time since we were challenged with that. Maybe back a few years. I think in today's climate, I can't recall the name of a customer today that's brought that up. We have the iPad at our service counter. They can sign in on the signature pad into the case. In most cases, we're workflowing it to them, and they can sign it on their own device while they're out at the truck or back in their office. So that hasn't challenged us in the last couple of years.
Matt?
So I think we have a very large vocational market. So most of the customers that are bringing their trucks in are out in a truck, and they're conducting business from inside their truck. They might not always have access to email. So we try to ask what is their preferred method of being notified. Most of them are, hey, between these hours, call me on the phone. And we still use all of the quick action buttons. We still do the request for approval, but then we call and we'll get approval from them over the phone. Whatever makes using the platform the easiest for them is what we're going to do. We will have their email addresses. We have phone numbers and cell numbers and who the contacts are and who that shot caller is for that repair event. and make sure that we're staying in touch with them. But the most important thing is that when you have a verbal conversation, it's all recorded in notes, who we talked to at what time and what was the detail of that conversation, so that we always have it. And there's some customers that don't want us to call them at all. They want to see the notifications come through the Packer Solutions onto their email. They want to be able to click on that link and go into the case and see where they're at. They want to be able to type in their estimate approved. And that's just as good as a signature to me. We don't have too many people that want the estimate faxed to them so they could sign it and then scan it and send it back to us. And once we explain to the customer the benefits of using this and how it frees up time for their people, usually with a good explanation and spending some time with the customer and doing a demo with them, showing them exactly what we see and what they'll see, I think it got adapted to very quickly.
That's great. So I think we're going to try to start wrapping this up. Let's do just one more question. Inland, specifically for you, Matt, how do you keep up with 3 or 4 vision dashboards?
I have a process of what I'm going through and I'm looking at. Once you rely on and trust the data, you could very quickly see how long a case has been in that status. Usually that's the first thing that gets the heartbeat pounding to take a look at that case. Being able to stay focused for a period of time going between the different views and being able to pick out quickly where you may have a potential problem and then being able to intervene. It's just one of those things where you just get used to the flow and trusting your data of what it's saying to you and try not to get off too far into the weeds.
Excellent. Thank you both. I think that these have been great questions for the day. Excellent answers. I really appreciate everybody participating. So with that, I really want to thank everyone for joining us today, and especially give a huge thanks on behalf of Decisive to our esteemed panelists, Matt Allen and Travis Brown, for joining us and sharing your really, truly excellent insights on the process of going paperless with us today. Wonderful job, gentlemen. Thank you very much. A quick reminder to everyone, and a reminder that you can also download our Going Digital white paper anytime you might be interested in learning a little bit more from our Decisive website or even LinkedIn if you want to look for it there. And if you are intrigued, I think a few of you in the QA section were, about what you've learned today and kind of how to get that ball rolling, get your shops moving to a paperless format, Decisive can help, of course. So just email Andy Turnbull from our panel today at the email address on the screen, aturnbull@decisive.com, and we will get you up and running. So that's our show for today, everyone. Thank you all for joining Driving the Digital Transition to a Paperless Service Management from Decisive. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and keep those wheels turning.